So the two of us, but also the whole community, have been talking about social types quite a lot. It's not just the first real addition to the OP system, it's actually the first really substantial addition to OPS ever since it started in 2018.
The social types brought as many questions as they did answers, and we were trying to figure out our social type and find the best fit. Were we ones, twos, threes, or fours? We really didn't know.
We quickly noticed that there were a couple of differences between the two of us when it comes to, yeah, I guess our social behavior, but we were never sure, is it our social type or is it our OPS type? And yeah, we wanted to really figure it out and also get some outside feedback. We didn't trust ourselves to just know or to really see it in ourselves without actually asking someone who has some experience and who actually came up with this whole thing. So, for example, with me, I know for most of my life, I definitely lived the number three life, the life of the specialist. So, for 10 years, I really specialized in one particular field. But comparing myself to my colleagues, I would say I wasn't as specialized as my colleagues because I just had other more broader interests and spent my time differently, not just in our specialization. And every job I had, like in this specialized field or related to it, made me feel really dissatisfied, but I didn't know why. I didn't know, was it because wasn't supposed to live the life of the specialist, or because I didn't or I hadn't found the right specialization for me. Another thing that we quickly noticed as a difference between Holly and me was that I'm not necessarily friendlier than Holly, but we would both agree that I'm more friends driven or more friends oriented than Holly. But again, we weren't sure, is this an FETE difference or is it our social types? And we also both agreed that I'm distinctly more controlling than Holly,
Yes.
especially in a broad general sense. Maybe not when it comes to sensory control, but in most other cases, yes. And then we thought, well, I am savior sleep, I also have double masculine sleep, but I'm still, as Holly is, savior OE. I'm not supposed to be that controlling. Like, what's going on there? We didn't know. And yeah, we had all these questions and we didn't feel confident in all that we could make sense of all these contradictions on our own. We wanted to have some outside perspective because assuming a social type just because we resonated with the description was simply not good enough for us.
Yeah. So I know for me, every job that I've had has always seemed to kind of stretch beyond the job description. I always end up doing more than what I was originally employed to do. And I also know that both in my personal and professional life, I always take on the typical EJ role of like the doer, the organizer, always making sure everyone's needs are met and that the work is getting done. But I was asking myself the question, is this just my OP saviors or is this actually my social type? And I didn't know and I really wanted to know.
Yeah, we really wanted to know.
Yeah. So we have now been officially typed. So I have been typed as a number three, and for anyone who doesn't know, my OPS type is visual, TENE, play, consume, sleep, blast.
And yeah, I have been typed as a number two, and my OPS type is double feminine, TISE, consume, sleep, play, blast. So, how do our social types clash with our OPS types? I am a number two, so I'm supposed to be the entrepreneur. I am supposed to produce and engage people and create systems. But at the same time, I'm a very introverted type. So producing and as a decider, as an introverted decider, especially engaging with people, has always been extremely hard and exhausting and actually really anxiety inducing, to be honest. So, as I said earlier, for most of my life, I lived a number three life, studying and then being an employee. And I think doing that, so building my skills in one particular area, actually suited my OPS type quite well. But especially working in just one area and not having complete autonomy about what I wanted to do and how I did it, left me with a feeling of dissatisfaction. But it was vague and I just didn't know what to do with it and how to interpret it. But what I did, I think, true to the number two life, I really overworked my savior sleep to create systems for myself. So I constantly looked for opportunities to pick up new information, new knowledge in all kinds of different areas like nutrition, fitness, finances, productivity, communication to learn more and in a way also gain an edge over others or at least over more people. But as of now, or maybe just in the last few months that I started this YouTube channel, I've never actually shared what I knew and what I learned or created any systems for others to use or to teach others.
So, if the social need of the number three is to kind of find the niche and master that one thing, get really good at that one thing, and they are, mostly concerned about security, how does this align with my animal stack and my OP type of having this OE brain of not being able to narrow down on one thing and just getting bored by everything? So I've spent most of my adult life thinking that if I could just find that one thing that I'm passionate about, then I can specialize on that, and that would be the thing that I'd be able to do for the rest of my life. But the problem is that I have demon FI and demon sleep, and I have no idea what I like, what I want to do. And so that has been the biggest challenge, is trying to figure that out. So what I've done instead is use my OP saviors to kind of serve my need for being useful, but this is without having my FI on board. So this has ultimately led to dissatisfaction with my career choice, and I don't find myself wanting to go the extra mile for my job.
Okay, so what does responsibility first in me versus responsibility last in Holly look like? So it's said that number twos are fundamentally freedom driven. And I think that's true. I would say that's true for me, and that's definitely how I described it in the past. But I'm not sure it's really the best word to describe it, what the drive really is about. I think better words would be either autonomy or ownership. I really want to determine every aspect of my life: career, relationships, my health, finances, etc. You name it. I completely feel like I cannot rely on opportunities that others give me. I need to build my own. I have to be in control. And I think for the number twos, this is really the highest priority, because everyone feels like that to a degree. But is this really your main drive? And would you sacrifice anything else for that, to have your autonomy, to have complete ownership over your life?
And no, I wouldn't. So I just want to start by saying that I think the term responsibility is a little bit misleading.
Yeah.
Everyone is responsible for something, and the number threes who have responsibility last are still responsible for something. So in one of Felix's previous videos, he used a ChatGPT analogy. And in that analogy, I am like ChatGPT in the way that someone is giving me the orders and telling me what to do, and then I go and do the work.
Also very smart and kind of robotic.
Thanks. I know I've always had the view of, you tell me what to do and I'll go and get it done, but I don't want to manage people. Now, I always thought that was blast last. I thought that was just what it meant to be TE, responsible for doing the things, but blast last, not responsible for telling other people what to do. So what does specialize first in me versus specialize last in you look like? So unironically, this was something that was actually really hard for me to see in myself. And that, I think, in part was because my OP saviors keep sabotaging my need to specialize. Having NT play, double masculine, makes me want to be across everything, and I feel like if I'm not, I'm missing out. I also struggle to say no, and will do anything that anyone asks me to do, even if it's not in my job description. And just on that, I don't even have a job description currently, because I'm currently doing 3 other roles within my company. So there you go.
Compared with that, every job that I had was much more clearly defined. I was the scientist or the teacher or the consultant. So how am I not the specialist? It all became a bit clearer when I compared myself to my former colleagues. Their level of knowledge and their skill always seemed deeper. They seemed to spend more time on our specialization, where my interests were broader, because I always felt like I had to take care of so many more things, like in my private life, or with my health, or my nutrition, or my finances, and really get all these things settled and find a way to do them well. But overall, it doesn't seem to be too difficult for me to pick up new skills on a basic level. For example, like video editing or maybe a new coding language. But it does feel like taking time to learn a new skill really slows me down, and it's very difficult to go beyond just a certain basic level. So what does savior friends in me and IP versus demon friends in an EJ actually look like for us? So realizing and getting the feedback that I'm actually savior friends was the first thing that hit me deeply emotionally when I got my social type back, because I only had a very true, genuine, deep desire for friends and connections. But if you're a mob with FE at the very bottom of your function stack, that need can be very hard to fulfill. And you can end up like very lonely, although you just in a way desperately want friends and connection. All that gave me a lot of pain. especially when I was younger. But still, as a number two, friends really come second, as harsh as that sounds. Because honestly, my own autonomy and how I want to live and where I want to go in life, that comes first. That really is my highest priority. So if you're wondering about your own social type and if you're considering if you might be number two, if you're not willing to sacrifice your relationships for the sake of your own autonomy and where you want to go in life, then you're probably not a number two.
So being DE and savior player means that I have an obligation to the tribe. And I know that I feel like I can do TE all day with anyone. But then when it comes to the end of the day and the end of the workday, I just want to be left alone. Now, I always thought that this was just because my DE function is TE, but it actually turns out that it's demon friends. So what does Savior Flex look like in me versus Savior Flex in you? Now, I don't often see myself outwardly flexing because it's, in my opinion, DE inappropriate to make it look like you think you're better than other people or show off what you have. What I do see myself doing though is editing and controlling my self-image. And I want to kind of maintain a put together sort of professional look around the people that I don't know.
Yeah, and compared to that, I'm probably even in public the sillier person.
Yes, you are. Hey, but in private, I'm silly too.
That's true. That's true. I can attest to that. Yeah, I don't really perceive it as a contradiction to be regarded as silly and competent at the same time. Like being silly and joking, being funny, it's just a way to connect, really. But still, as a decider, I am really afraid of judgment, and most of the time it feels like I'm not allowed to flex. So what have we been doing with this information? How are we trying to apply it to our lives? So it is our current understanding that the social types create an overarching narrative for our lives, where our cognitive functions, our OPS type, are basically the tools that we have on a even minute basis to follow this narrative.
So the biggest learning for me was to, I guess, understand that the passion that I'm searching for is actually coming from my need to specialize, but my OP saviors are constantly sabotaging my ability to do that. I also understand how important it is for me to have that alignment between my T and my FI if I really want to kind of put in the time to really get good at something and specialize. I'm also now much more aware of what I'm not doing with the responsibility and also what the number ones and twos have on their plate so that I can take that into account and try to be more helpful to them.
For me, the biggest thing that I got out of knowing my social type is really clarity. Clarity of where I want to go in life. I'm a number two because I want to live my life in a certain way. It's not the other way around. It really is arbitrary and completely subjective, but that's just who I am. Before I went through the whole process of wondering about my type and getting my type back, my desires felt vague. I didn't know what to do with them, and I really couldn't articulate them well. The dissatisfaction with my working life so far felt very vague too. I just really didn't know what to do about it. Now I have much more clarity, and I'm also actively working on bringing about the life that I want. It will take me years to get there, but that really doesn't matter. What really matters is that I know and also move towards it.
So we hope that some of the comparisons that we've given you between a number three and a number two and how it plays out in real life for us with the coins might actually help you to figure out whether you are also a number three or a number two.
Or maybe neither of the two.
Or
Who
maybe
knows?
Who knows?